So we'll see the difference between for and for each. Now suppose I don't know the count, I don't know how many values are there in my array. Here I have taken u bound. Suppose I don't want to take u bound. Let's remove this u bound. Upper bound, okay. So for array, what I can use, this for each is mostly used for arrays. If I write for each over here, I can simply write for each I in my array name. So what my for each loop is trying to say is for each value I in my array, that is a name, okay. So each value, for each value I am displaying that value. I'm using message box I. So for each value I in a name, I'll display the array name. Now the thing is, you don't know the starting and the end value. As I said, for loop, you should know the initial and the end value and the steps in which you are incrementing the value. Now in for each, I don't know the initial value, the final value of I, and also I don't know the steps in which I'm incrementing, because what I'm doing by using for each I will take each and every value in your array one by one. So for first iteration it will take Rahul, for second iteration it will take Rita, third it will take Seema, and fourth it will take Mahesh. So the loop will run 4 times, but you have nowhere mentioned that you have to run it 4 times, because by using for each, it will run for each value of your array. Okay. So it functions in the same way. When I run this, it functions the same way as for loop, but with a slight variation, wherein I don't care about the upper bound or the lower bound values of my array. Okay. So as you can see, it ran for all the values. For each values in my array, I am running the for each loop. So this is the minor variation between for and for each. Now there's one more loop which is called do while. Okay. Now do while is similar to for loop with a slight difference actually. There are other loops as well, such as do until, while when, do until loop, okay, then while loop. So but we won't be seeing all the variations because it will be too much to grasp. So the important ones, the ones which you will be using in your scenarios, that only I'll be explaining, because these are sufficient to run any code. These three, for each and do while, these 3 loops are sufficient to run any code. Okay. So as I said, in for loop we should have 3 values. 3 values important. 3 values are important. That is the initial value, the end value of my I, and the steps in which you want to increment. Okay. So in do while, what we do the same way, but with a slight variation. So suppose I equal to 1, I'm keeping it outside the loop. Okay. So do while I is less than 10. Okay. I'll write my code over here, and then here I'll write I equal to I plus 1. Okay. So here what I'm doing is, the initial value I equal to 1 is outside this loop. Then I'm saying that do while I is less than 10. That is, till the value of I reaches 9, this loop will run. In what steps? I equal to I plus 1. So in steps of 1, it will increment every time. So when I run this loop, initially the value of I is 1. So QTP will check whether 1 is less than 10. Yes. So it will execute this loop. And at the end of the loop, it will see I equal to I plus 1, and the value of I is 1 presently, so it will be 1 plus 1, 2. So the new value of I is 2. So when the loop runs for the second time, the value of I is 2. 2 is still less than 10. Again the code will run, and now the value will be 3. So in this way, it will keep on incrementing till the value of I reaches 9. It will execute the code. The value of I will become 10 in step number 39. It will go back, and again it will the loop will check whether 10 is less than 10. No, 10 is not less than 10, therefore it will come out of the loop. So even once you start writing your scripts, you'll understand the usage of for and do while loop and for each loop, so based on your scenario. So for now you should know the basic construction and how to the basic usage of this loop. And once you do hands-on, once you start writing your scripts, you will automatically understand where to apply which loop. Now, like I said, we are moving to the next topic, wherein As I said, we can keep the code in a particular action. Okay, to create modularity, we can keep a code in suppose I'm keeping in this action, that is action 1, or I can keep it in a particular function in my function library. So you have already seen that when I go to file, new function library, this is my function library. I can write some function over here. Okay, function space. So this is the syntax of writing the function, and I can give some name, function say login. Okay, and then write some code over here. So, okay, and the functions can also be written within the action. Okay, and also I can write sub procedure fn login. So there is a minute difference between function and sub procedure. All these are used for modularizing your script, actions, functions, and sub procedure. But there are certain differences between sub procedure and function. I've already discussed about differences between actions and functions. If you remember, in one of the chapters I had shown you what is the difference between actions and functions. Now we'll see what is the difference between sub procedure and function. Now sub procedure can never return a value from suppose this action is calling the procedure and the function both. So say fn login. So we're calling the function or procedure. Now as you know that functions can return values by keeping the same name as a function. So if I'm writing inside fn login, I'm writing fn login equal to 9. So this function will return the value 9 to the test or to the action wherever it is called. So suppose if I'm writing j equal to 9, so the value of 9 will be returned to j, that is j's value will become 9 since j is calling the function fn login. Okay, so to return any value from the function, the variable name should be same as the function name. But in sub procedure you cannot return any value. So basically this is a very major difference between function and sub procedure. In functions you can return the value, whereas in sub procedure you cannot return the value. Now since you know about the variables wherein we declare using dim, you also should know the scope of these variables. If I'm writing dim inside this action, it is the scope is only till the action. Okay, now even if the action calls this function, if I display the value of inum over here inside this function, it won't be valid because the scope ends within the action itself. So let's say I have declared the value inum1. I have given the value, initialized it with value 15 for a variable inum1, and I'm calling function say fn login. Okay, I've associated my test with this function library, therefore this function is available for my test. I'm calling fn login. This is my fn login function, and inside the function I'm displaying the value of inum1. Okay, the inum1 which we had declared over here and initialized.